Pamela.
Hi, Roxy. Thanks for having me in your studio.
No problem. Welcome to the Many Faces, Many Places podcast. I'm really excited to have my friend Pamela Clarke Qiao joining me today. And she's going to tell us a lot about some interesting things about her life that you may not know. And so what's the first thing you want us to know about you?
Where do I start? I feel like life has taken me on quite an interesting journey. But just as a background, I grew up in South Africa in the beautiful city of Cape Town. It actually has one of the world wonders called Table Mountain. So if you ever get a chance to go there, I highly recommend Table Mountain. And I recently moved to the States. I currently live in El Paso, Texas. And it's quite a difference from living next to the beach to living in the desert.
So what was it? Table Mountain is what you recommended?
Yes.
And what does it describe it to us?
It's a beautiful mountain, and the top of the mountain is completely flat, which is why it's called Table Mountain. But you can hike up Table Mountain, or you can take a cable car. And when you get to the top, you can have some lunch at a restaurant or do some shopping, a lot of sightseeing. It's absolutely spectacular.
I'll have to check it out the next time I go.
But a lot of our family vacations included trips to the game reserve, which basically means that you go to a place where there's a lot of wildlife, and the wildlife are free. They roam free. It's completely wild. And you basically stay in your vehicle. That's encouraged. Some people don't, but usually there's some bad consequences for not staying in your vehicle. So you basically climb in your vehicle and you just drive around this massive park. You can spend the whole day just driving around looking for animals. And one of the big famous parks in South Africa is called the Kruger National Park. And over there, you can actually see the big five. So the lion, the rhino, all of those. And it's really amazing. And another one of my favorites is called the Addo Elephant Park, which is exactly as the name says, a large elephant park. So you'll be driving in your car and you can literally see the elephants next to your car. So it's a little bit scary at times, but really magnificent.
How do you spell the first word of the elephant park?
The Kruger. So it's Kruger.
And then the other one
is Addo. So ADDO.
Oh, okay. Addo Elephant Park.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And what was some of your favorite things about growing up and the city that you grew up in, as well as the other cities that you lived in, like food, culture, the people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was born in Pretoria, which is part of the Gauteng province. So interestingly, Africa is a continent and it is shared up into different countries. So South Africa is a separate country from, for example, Namibia or Kenya or Botswana. It's all different countries. So South Africa is shared into provinces, and there's currently 11 official provinces. So I grew up in the province of Gauteng. Well, I was born there actually, but then I moved to the Western Cape, to Cape Town. And it's really, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. We have beautiful beaches. We have the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. So get a little bit of both, which is really fun. I love Table Mountain. Right next to Table Mountain, we have another mountain called Lion's Head. And I have some great memories just hiking up Lion's Head during full moon. It's actually really beautiful and a very popular hike. And yeah, I really enjoy the food. South Africa has a lot of different culture, a lot of different foods, a lot of different languages. So I really enjoy the richness of culture.
Why is it called Lion's Head?
I don't know. That's a great question, but I'm not sure.
Maybe it's shaped like a lion.
It's actually like pointed, interestingly. So
yeah, because near here we have Elephant Butte, and it does look like an elephant swimming in water.
Oh,
And
interesting.
have you been to Elephant Butte?
Not yet, but
No.
it's on my bucket list to go.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not too far from here. And then we have the Mammoth Rock
Okay.
at the Franklin Mountains,
Yes.
and it's shaped like mammoth.
Wow.
So I've hiked there, and it's pretty cool. But so you were born in Pretoria, and you also lived in Cape Town.
Yes.
And Port Elizabeth.
That's right.
Yes.
I actually went back to the Gauteng province, to Johannesburg, for 1 year after I finished my studies, because in South Africa, in the healthcare field, every graduate is required to do one community service year. So it's actually, I think it's a great system because it guarantees you your first year of working, since you get paid for that year of working, but it's a requirement to be a fully graduate, in my case, a dietitian.
Okay, that's really a good idea. I think a good option versus the programs here that sometimes you have to intern for free and then not get paid for a while. So that's good that you were able to find that.
Yes, it definitely provided me with a lot of experience. So I'm grateful for that year.
So a funny thing that happened, remember when we were done hiking Guadalupe and the lady from the hot air balloon company called you? And she spoke to you for like 20 minutes getting your reservation for the New Mexico hot air balloons. And then at the end, she was like, "Can I ask you a personal question?"
Yes, I remember that.
And we were like, "What is the question?" And then she goes, "Okay, you have a mix of different accents. I want to say it's a mix of 3 different accents. It's Australian, New Zealand, and Asian."
You will be surprised at how often that happens. So I've never had someone tell me I have 3 accents. I think most people guess I'm either from Australia or from England, but I've never had someone say that I have an Asian accent. So I was surprised by that.
Yeah, we're like, where did the Asian come from?
Right.
But even on the hike, when we were scaling down the mountain, we were running down, and then there was some other hikers talking to Nak and I because we were in the back. You were way in front of us. And even they were like, we were asking where they're from, and they asked where we're from. And then they just assumed, they were just like, "Oh, you're French, she's from Europe, right?" Like just full out just assume that you were from Europe.
Yes. I feel like I'm so used to it now. I actually get surprised when someone does not ask me where I'm from, because I think the South African accent is quite unique. And my native language is actually Afrikaans. So I grew up speaking both Afrikaans and English. So I think for someone that grew up only speaking English and having a South African accent, it might actually sound a little bit different. So there's quite a mix of languages in South Africa.
Okay, that makes sense. So people that did not learn Afrikaans growing up and only spoke English, they have an even different accent than you?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that your mom is the one that speaks Afrikaans and your dad does not, right?
He can speak Afrikaans, but when they first met, he could not really speak Afrikaans. So I think he learned over the years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of the different languages, I was watching this dating show on, I think, Netflix or Hulu. It was one of those like first dates, and they would just record the interaction, and it's very cringeworthy, and you're just watching, like, it's so awkward because you're also watching this first date happen. And they had a guy from South Africa.
Really?
Yeah, and I was thinking about you. But on the date, he was trying to be all impressive to the girl. He was all like, "Yeah, I'm from South Africa. I love the culture and all that." And then the girl was just listening to him like he's giving a lecture. And then he goes, "In South Africa, we have 5 official languages. We have, and then he had like a hard time coming up with them. He was like, "We have Xhosa," is that what it's called?
Xhosa.
He was like, "We have Xhosa, we have, well, anyway, there's 5 languages." I was like, you couldn't even have thought of Afrikaans, or what are the other, like he only named two, and he was the one trying to act impressive in front of his date, like, oh, I'm so interesting, I'm from another country and let me teach you about South Africa, but he didn't even know. So what are the other 5 official languages?
So we actually have more than 5. So he actually had
he was wrong.
He was wrong, but don't ask me which ones they are. I know a few, but I don't know all of them. So from the top of my head, okay, so there's English, there's Afrikaans, there's Xhosa. So that's actually the language the area where I worked for the past 6 years. That's probably the most spoken language is Xhosa. So I can speak a little bit of Xhosa, but not enough to have a full-on conversation. And then in the KwaZulu-Natal province, you get a lot of Zulu. We have Pedi, we have I'm already run out of languages, but there are a lot, and there's actually a lot of non-official languages too. So
well, I know at least 3: Zulu, Xhosa. I can't say that sound.
Xhosa. It's like a click.
I do it in different sounds. I can't make it like in one motion. Xhosa. That's what I can do. And Afrikaans and English. Okay, I know 4 of the 8 or so many.
And I know Sotho. Sotho is one of them too.
Zulu and Sotho.
Yes.
Okay, that's easy to remember. So that's interesting. So how, like, what determines what language people speak? Is it the geography of where you were born?
It often is. So there's a group of, I think the Afrikaans language is derived from Dutch, but it's typically the Boere. Like I've heard a few people here in the States ask me if I was a Boer, and they say it with such an accent and I didn't even understand what they were trying to say. Like someone once asked me if I'm a boar, and I thought he was asking me if I was a pig, but but you spell it B-O-E-R, which means boer, which translates to farmer. But that's typically where the language comes from. It's basically the non-black, the white people that typically were farmers back in the days. That's kind of the language that we speak, or they spoke. And then a lot of it is determined by region. So KwaZulu-Natal, they have a lot of Zulu, in the Western Cape, more Xhosa. So I think it is a lot of geography. Sometimes people do move around, so you might find yourself in an area where it's like if you grew up in a different region, but then move, you might speak a language that's not common in that region. So it's kind of like that.
That's so interesting. There's so much we need to learn, I feel like, as Americans about other countries, and it's not just like in China, there's not just one Chinese language either. There's actually hundreds of dialects.
Oh, really?
So,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So same with South Africa. There's a lot of different regions and a lot of different customs and languages. So that's what makes the world beautiful, and which is why I want to do this and talk about different places, many places with many faces. Well, I'm a big foodie. So, and you are as well. You and your husband both are huge foodies. I don't think I've ever met anyone that are more of foodies than you guys. I want to know about the different foods that you have in South Africa and describe them to us.
That's such a good question. I think it's hard to really define what is South African food because there's just so much. But just off the top of my head, a few things that I think is quite unique is so one of the things is called a smiley, and that is actually a sheep's head that is like a delicatessen in South Africa. And then something else that people enjoy is called walkie-talkies, which is basically chicken feet, but I call them walkie-talkies.
Oh.
And then in the Durban region, that's something that's very popular is called a bunny chow. So guess what is a bunny chow?
Bunny child?
A bunny chow.
Oh, bunny chow.
Yes.
A salad?
No, it's a half a loaf of bread that's cut open and then hollowed out. And then there's a curry that's put inside this half a loaf of bread, and then it's closed up and you eat the bunny chow.
That actually sounds really good. I love curry. I'll have curry anytime. It reminds me of those like sourdough bread soup bowls.
Oh yeah.
And you put chili in it and then you close the bread.
Oh, that sounds
the bowl,
good.
and it's like this round container of bread, but soup.
Wow, I don't think I've ever had that. That sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds okay. So
Yeah.
bunny chow
Yes.
sounds like I would definitely go for that. But
And
smiley, don't think so. If someone says, "Hey, smiley," I'm gonna be like, "No, thank you. Take your smiley over there."
Good choice. I don't really eat those foods either, but my husband is a more adventurous eater, so he tried all of those types of foods.
And walkie talkie are chicken feet, and we have that in Chinese cuisine.
Okay.
My mom loves it.
Okay.
My brothers don't as much because they're more American, but my mom does love it. And I have another friend that from here, from El Paso, that also loves it. She went to Hong Kong one time and she's like, "Roxy, I love the fried chicken feet, the crispy ones."
Really? That's so
She's like, "Can your mom make me some?" Like, it has to be crispy though.
I love the overlap of cultures. I've noticed that sometimes when I made this pastry, it's like basically 3 pieces of dough that you twist together and then you put it in like a sweet syrup. So that's like a South African dessert as well. And my husband said it also reminded him of something in China. So I find it surprising how some foods and cultural things overlap.
Yeah. And that reminds me of like a donut that we have here in the States.
Yeah, so I guess it's similar in terms of how cultures can overlap at times. But there are also, we have a lot of Indian influence. We do have some good Asian food in South Africa, good seafood. Within the the Afrikaans culture, we have a lot of different, especially sweet treats, like some really good, like the Cook Sisters that I spoke about. One of my favorites is called a milk tart.
Milk tart?
Yes, it's really good. And then we have something called a pannenkoek. It's basically a pancake, but it's not the same as pancakes here. It's more like a crepe.
A crepe, yeah.
Yeah, you put cinnamon and sugar into it. Okay. It's really good. So we always have it like pancakes or those South African kind of pancakes at like big festivals and things like that. And another thing that's really popular is the braai. Everybody has to have a braai at least once a week, and that's basically an open fire, and then you cook your food on this hot coals, and it's more about the social. Everybody sits around the fire and enjoys each other's company and have a beer. So it's really fun.
And it's called a braai?
A braai.
Like yes. B-R-Y?
B-R-A-A-I.
B-R-A-A-I. Oh. Yeah. And so what kind of foods do you cook at a braai?
So one thing that's very popular is called boerewors. So it's a type of sausage, but it's very flavorful. It has like coriander and different spices in there. So that's really good. We have a lot of lamb. So lamb chops is pretty popular. So sometimes corn on the cob, some roasted potatoes, roasted pumpkin. And then we often make something called pap, which is like maize with a tomato and onion sauce. It's kind of a maize that you make and have the tomato sauce.
Okay, so the braai sounds to me a lot, because of the social aspects, it reminds me a lot of like a cookout, like a backyard cookout that we have in the States, and kind of a hot pot that we would have at my uncle's house, like in the Chinese culture. So the hot pot, instead of cooking things over coals like you do in a braai, you have this boiling pot of soup, and it's usually in kind of the yang shape. So you have one side spicy and one side non-spicy for people, different tastes, and you drop different types of foods into the boiling soup. So you have a how do you call it? Like a mini stove that you put in the middle of the table, and then you put the boiling pot in the middle. And it has soup, and you drop different types of fresh vegetables and meats.
Oh, that sounds familiar. You know what? I think we had it in Chicago at a place called the Happy Lamb. Yes. And I still remember telling my husband that I don't think these lambs are happy because they're being eaten. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting experience.
That's tragic. Oh, that's so funny. But yes, I think I've seen them. I think they're a franchise. And because what you typically boil is lamb meat.
Oh, I see.
Very thin slices of lamb meat. So my uncle actually has one of these machines at his house where it's this huge industrialized looking meat slicer.
Yeah.
I'm looking over at your husband because he asked if he can borrow it.
He is the biggest meat eater ever.
Oh, okay, you're gonna borrow it and you're coming over?
Nope. We got a lamb. Bring a lamb. That's not the hot.
Oh, you're bringing a lamb over.
Yes.
Is it gonna be a happy lamb?
It's a woke lamb, $6.99 per pound from Sam's Club.
Oh gosh.
How do you know if it was happy? We gotta know it was happy, or else it's not true to the happy lamb tradition.
Exactly.
It was happy.
It was happy.
It was
And then you're gonna be happy using the slicer.
Mhm.
Okay, so you just work the slicer until you get these really thin sheets. Comes out in a roll when you slice them so thin like that. And then you have plates all over the table. So you have lamb, you have maybe some meatballs, some fish meatballs, some crab. And then for me, it'll be sweet potato noodles, sweet potato slices, spinach, any type of green vegetable, tofu. What else do they have for me when I go? Yeah, just anything really that I can eat. I will eat. Oh, just like regular potatoes.
Okay.
And seaweed is also another option.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so you just drop those in. So I have my separate bowl. But everyone else will just drop everything in there, and then you have like this ladle to scoop things out.
Yes.
When they're done cooking. And it only takes a few seconds. When you drop the piece of lamb in there, you're only supposed to wait like 15 seconds, and then you take it out and then you put it on your own dish. And we usually serve it with sesame sauce and some other types of, definitely sesame sauce, and I'm not sure what else, some spice like chili.
Nice.
Yeah.
I see a social coming.
Oh yes. And Jessie is going to prepare the lamb for us, right? Well, not me. I'll just enjoy the potatoes. But yes, we do have that. Yeah, so my uncle's the place to go whenever we have hot pot. Haven't really done it ever since COVID, honestly. So it's been a couple of years, but before that we would do it for the major holidays. The last holiday we just celebrated was at my grandma's house for the Chinese Mid-Autumn Festival.
Oh,
Did you guys do anything for that?
We didn't. I didn't even know that we were supposed to.
Shame. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, Jessie. Shame.
My husband didn't educate me on this topic.
Okay, how can you be a Chinese boy and not know about Mid-Autumn Festival? Or I call it Mooncake Day because that's all I know it for is the mooncake.
Because Tavi's with my family.
No, he's more of a Texan boy than a Chinese boy. He's very Texan.
Yeah, I've noticed he's more of a Texan boy. In all your wedding photos, I see him wearing a cowboy hat.
Yes. And he's always wearing a buckle, like massive buckles.
And cowboy boots?
Yes, sometimes cowboy boots. He just likes to wear the most comfortable shoes possible.
And you sing, what's that song? Is it George Strait? Or what's another song that you sing? It's the All My Exes. Who sings that song?
My exes live in Texas.
Yeah, if you ever come over for karaoke at the Chow's house, you'll hear All My Exes Live in Texas.
JC performs that one while he's doing squats.
Really?
Yes, he did it for a talent competition last year. He squatted while he sang that song.
So squatting and singing All My Exes Live in Texas. I expect nothing less from Jessie. Are you a Hispanic boy too, Jessie? A little bit, trying to be there. Yeah, being in.
You can speak
living
Spanish.
Here. Yeah. Yeah, so Texan boy mixed with a little Hispanic influence. fresh off the boat from China, but forgot all his Chinese traditions apparently, which is where I come in.
To help him out.
Married a South African woman.
Yep, that's it. One diverse man.
What a whirlwind. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like the podcast, I would love it if you can leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest at MFMP Pod. And consider supporting the show at patreon.com/MFMP to gain access to exclusive content and bonus perks. And to keep the conversation going, you can tweet me to ask a question or share a comment about what you heard. I would also love to see you post stories to Instagram or Facebook of you listening to the pod or trying any of the activities or recommendations introduced from the Hook You Up segments by my guests or myself. Tag me in your stories or posts at MFMP Pod so I can see and maybe also share along. Until then, stay tuned to hear more from the many faces of many places.